Before we dive into the specific issue of Nelson Hydro and chemical spraying, I want to explain something more important. This is not just a story about pesticides. This is a real-time teaching, a living tutorial. You are about to watch an administrative process from the private side in action. Once you understand how this works, you will never look at government, utilities, or agencies the same way again. What an administrative process really means. When we say administrative, we mean it is coming from the private, from a living man or woman, not from a corporate fiction, not from a resident, not from a customer, from the creditor. In the private, we operate under lawful principles, not legal codes. Legal belongs to the corporate public world, the debtor side. Lawful belongs to the living man or woman who stands in honor, the creditor side. That is why when we send a notice, it is lawful notice, not legal notice. Registered mail does not create legal authority. It establishes lawful due process. It shows that they received it. It shows that they have a duty to answer. And it shows whether they choose honor or dishonor. That is where accountability begins. Why we do not sign petitions. People often ask, why not start a petition? A petition puts you in the position of a beggar. You are asking the same institution that is causing the harm to please change its mind. A petition says, you are above me. I acknowledge you as the authority over me. A notice says, I am the authority over my private property, my body, and the land I steward. Petitions place you beneath them. Notices place you beside them. Private to public. Creditor to debtor. Why we do not march, protest, or line up at City Hall. When you protest or march, you step into the public corporate jurisdiction. You step into their arena. There you are, treated as a resident, not as a living man or woman. You are governed by bylaws, not by inherent rights. You are heard only when and how they choose. By showing up on their stage, you surrender standing to their system. In administrative process from the private, we do the opposite. We do not chase them. We do not beg them. We do not perform for them. We serve notice. We give an opportunity to answer. We establish the record. They respond in honor, or they fall into dishonor. Quiet, lawful, powerful, correct. Why lawful notice uses email and registered mail. Email gives immediate notice. It is time-stamped. Registered mail gives lawful verification. It shows that the notice was delivered. It shows that the notice was received. It shows that the duty to respond has begun. This is not legal notice in their codes. This is lawful notice from the private side to the public side, from creditor to debtor. From there, the administrative chain unfolds. First notice. Second, opportunity to cure. Third, default if they do not answer or answer without evidence. Fourth, liability and exposure of their bond and responsibility, no threats, no anger, no accusations, just process. This is how a man or woman in honor holds public institutions to account. How we use their own document as Exhibit A. In this case, Nelson Hydro created a pest management plan. That plan is their document, their words, their admissions, their obligations. We took that document and treated it as Exhibit A. Then we pulled out every weakness in their reasoning, highlighted every place where they created risk, identified every duty they placed on themselves by law, policy, or code, noted every area where they failed to protect the land, the people, or the water. Then, we turned all of that into questions. We did not make claims. We did not make accusations. We simply said, show us your authority. Show us your evidence. Show us your safety data. Show us your monitoring. Show us your lawful right to do what you are doing. This is a key part of administrative process. You use their own document to expose their own contradictions. You use their own words to hold them to their own standards. That is how the private corrects the public. Who is the injured party? They keep talking about protecting the public. But who is the public? It is the men and women who live on the land. It is the children who play on the ground and along the creeks. It is the farmers and gardeners who grow food. It is the beekeepers and the wildlife and the soil itself. When chemicals are sprayed across private land, public land, and crown land, without true consent, without full disclosure, and without proof of safety, the real public is the one being harmed. They say they are protecting the public, but their actions contaminate the public. That is double speech. That is contradiction. That is failure of duty. When the public system fails in its duty of care, the private must act. And the private acts through lawful notice, not protest. Why we are doing this now? This is more than exposing a herbicide program. This is a real-time lesson in how private remedy works. We are showing you how to stand as a living man or woman, act as a creditor, not a debtor, require evidence, not slogans or promises, hold authorities to their own duties, correct the public side from the private side, use process instead of anger. We are doing this to protect the land, to protect the water, to protect the children, to protect the wildlife, to protect the food systems, to protect the future, and we are doing it from the only position with true moral, spiritual, and lawful standing. The private, the creditor, the living man or woman in honor. A final word on learning this path. This is not difficult. It is simply not taught. They will not show you this in public school or government school. Those systems exist to train compliant debtors, not conscious creditors. If they taught you how to stand in your own authority, they would lose control over you. So you have to learn it yourself. Step by step. As you learn this outer process, you are also invited to do the inner work. When you work on yourself, when you clean your perceptions, when you grow in consciousness, something beautiful happens. Your inner vision begins to open. This is what the ancients meant by having eyes to see. You start to see patterns and deceptions that were always there, but hidden from your awareness, your inner hearing begins to sharpen. This is what they meant by having ears to hear. You start to hear what is not being said. You hear the silence where truth should be. You hear the contradictions behind smooth words. In ancient times, this was the mark of an awakened soul, someone who had stepped out of sleep, someone who could no longer be easily led, manipulated, or hypnotized by appearances. That is what this process is really about. Yes, we are dealing with chemicals. Yes, we are protecting land and water. But at a deeper level, we are remembering who we are. Men and women of consciousness, men and women of the land, men and women of the Creator. So watch this process, learn from it, notice how it unfolds. If you have questions, reach out and ask. Blessings to all of you who stand, who speak, and who protect what is sacred, warriors in spirit. Walking in peace, with eyes to see and ears to hear. This is not complicated. It is simply not taught. They will never explain this process in public school or government school because those systems are designed to keep you in the role of the compliant debtor, not the conscious creditor. If you wait for the institutions to teach you how to hold them to account, you will wait your whole life. But once you begin to learn this, and once you combine it with real inner work, something shifts. Neat things start to happen. Your inner vision opens. This is what the ancients meant by having eyes to see. You begin to notice patterns, contradictions, and quiet harms that were always there, but hidden in plain sight. Your hearing changes too. This is having ears to hear. You start to hear what is not being said, the gaps between the lines, the truth behind polished statements and empty slogans. In the old teachings, this was the mark of a soul who had stepped out of sleep and into awareness. That is what this process is really about. Not just pesticides, not just one utility. It is about men and women remembering who they are, reclaiming their lawful standing, and aligning their outer actions with their inner knowing. So watch this process closely. Learn from it. Let it awaken something in you. And if you have questions at any time, reach out, ask, and stay engaged. We are not alone in this. Blessings to all of you who stand, who speak, and who protect the land. Warriors in spirit, walking in peace, with eyes to see and ears to hear. The chemical quiet. How Nelson Hydro in British Columbia is preparing to spray herbicides across communities without consent. A decision made in silence. Most residents in the Nelson region of British Columbia, including Blewett, Tacoma, North Shore, Balfour, Harrop, Proctor, Queens Bay, and surrounding rural districts, have no idea that a major chemical program is about to unfold across their land, water systems, and ecosystems. Nelson Hydro, a utility wholly owned by the City of Nelson in British Columbia, has filed a 5-year pest management plan, PMP, authorizing chemical herbicide applications across hundreds of kilometers of rights-of-way. These power line corridors cut directly through private properties, gardens and orchards, small farms, wells and drinking water zones, riparian areas, wildlife habitat, and public land used every day by families and recreation groups. And yet, residents were not meaningfully informed. Residents were not consulted. Residents were not given the right to consent or refuse. This matters not just to locals, but to anyone across British Columbia who cares about environmental governance, public transparency, or chemical exposure near food, water, and wildlife. Nelson Hydro's redefinition of consultation. The PMP quietly redefines consultation as notification only. In other words, we will notify you. You do not get to opt out. A single small print newspaper ad, not a public meeting, not a direct notice, not social media, not mailed letters, was offered as sufficient consultation for a chemical program lasting 5 years, for a utility operating in British Columbia, a province that publicly promotes clean BC, climate leadership, watershed protection, and biodiversity recovery. This approach is not acceptable. The herbicides at issue, a British Columbia community at risk. The PMP authorizes a set of substances that independent science has repeatedly flagged as high risk. Number 1, glyphosate-based herbicides linked to endocrine disruption, reproductive effects, soil microbial collapse, and documented groundwater contamination. Number 2, oxalic herbicides, such as aminopyrrolide-type compounds known for drift volatility and multi-year persistence in compost and manure. Number 3, tank mixes with undisclosed surfactants and co-formulants. These mixtures often carry higher toxicity than the active ingredient. Number 4, chemicals known to migrate downhill in steep terrain, which the West Kootenays have in abundance. These chemicals do not stay where they are applied. They travel through drift, soil movement, rain runoff, groundwater transport, and the Kootenays, with steep mountains, fractured bedrock, artesian flows, and interconnected watersheds, are uniquely vulnerable. Utility easements do not grant chemical rights. Many British Columbians assume that if a utility corridor crosses their land, spraying is automatically allowed. This is false. An easement usually grants, number 1, access, number 2, maintenance, number 3, inspection. It does not grant the right to chemically alter soil, water, gardens, orchards, livestock fields, or pollinator habitat, unless the specific easement document explicitly grants chemical authority, and almost none do. Spraying on private property is not justified. Foreseeability. Nelson Hydro should have known. Under any reasonable standard of care, administrative, ethical, environmental, or common sense, Nelson Hydro should already understand the risks associated with these chemicals. Scientific literature, independent, not industry-funded, shows: Number 1, endocrine, reproductive, and developmental impacts. Number 2, neurological and behavioral damage to pollinators and wildlife. Number 3, soil sterilization and microbiome collapse. Number 4, water contamination in wells, streams, and lakes. Number 5, multi-year persistence in manure, compost, forage, and hay. Once notified, an agency can no longer claim ignorance. Foreseeable harm requires precaution. Precaution requires informed consent. Consent was never offered. Direct contradiction with Nelson. British Columbia's own climate and sustainability policies. The city of Nelson promotes itself as a climate leader in British Columbia, publishing a sustainability roadmap called Nelson Next, which defines environmental well-being as clean water, protected habitat, healthy citizens, resilient ecosystems, and reduced toxins. Chemical spraying across watersheds, wildlife corridors, and food-producing properties plainly contradicts these commitments. Either Nelson is a climate-responsible city, or it is not. It cannot be both while authorizing multi-year herbicide programs without consent. Public land and crown land are also targeted. This is not limited to private landowners. The PMPs. Chemical spraying also applies to Number 1, BC Crown land. Number 2, public parks. Number 3, riparian ecosystems. Number 4, trails and recreation zones. Number 5, shoreline and foreshore. Number 6, wildlife habitat. Number 7, school-adjacent areas. These are shared public commons. People walk here. Dogs run here. Kids play here. Birds nest here. Amphibians breed here. Fish migrate here. The public was not informed. The public did not consent. The public has not even been given baseline monitoring data. What has not been provided to the people of British Columbia? British Columbians are being asked to accept a 5-year herbicide program without, number 1, proof of authority to spray private land. Number 2, proof of consent from landowners. Number 3, formulation level toxicology, real-world products. Number 4, groundwater and watershed migration studies. Number 5, long-term environmental fate data. Number 6, monitoring plans for soil, water, bees, livestock, gardens. Number 7, alternatives analysis, mechanical first. Number 8, a clear statement of how spraying aligns with Nelson's climate policies. Number 9, a public forum or open debate. This is governance without transparency, and British Columbians deserve better. The administrative notice. A formal record now exists. Because Nelson Hydro did not provide the information that the public deserves, a comprehensive administrative notice of questions and disclosure. Demand has now been served to Nelson Hydro, the City of Nelson, RDCK. It demands, number 1, full authority evidence. Number 2, formulation and tank mix. Toxicology. Number 3, environmental fate data. Number 4, groundwater migration analysis. Number 5, legal justification for spraying on private land. Number 6, contradiction analysis with Nelson's sustainability policies. Number 7, foreseeability assessment. Number 8, opt-in/opt-out mechanisms. Number 9, an administrative moratorium until disclosure is complete. This notice establishes a public record across British Columbia. Nelson Hydro can no longer say, "We didn't know." City Council can no longer say, "We weren't told." RDCK cannot say, "We assumed it was safe." The silence has been broken. What residents across British Columbia can do, now number 1, read the full notice in PDF form. Number 2, email Nelson Hydro and the city demanding disclosure. Number 3, share this Substack article widely across BC. Number 4, notify neighbors, farmers, beekeepers, and gardeners. Number 5, attend City of Nelson and RDCK meetings. Number 6, submit a written notice of non-consent for your land. Number 7, raise awareness on social media and community groups. Community action is how this stops. Conclusion: our land, our water, our consent. This is not an ideological issue. This is not anti-forestry, anti-mining, or anti-worker. This is about the safety of British Columbia's watersheds, the health of our food systems, the rights of private landowners, the protection of children and vulnerable populations, the stewardship of Crown land and wildlife, the integrity of civic governance, and the future we entrust to the next generation. Chemical spraying without informed consent is unacceptable, morally, environmentally, and administratively. The record has been created, the notice has been issued, and the people of British Columbia are now aware. Our land, our water, our consent, and here we are. Every day we hear about climate change, environmental protection, sustainability, and the call to go green. But words are meaningless when actions on the ground do the opposite. You cannot claim to protect the planet while spraying toxic chemicals across the land, into the soil, into the water, and into the bodies of the very people and animals you are supposed to safeguard. This is our home. This is British Columbia. This is some of the cleanest water, the richest soil, and the most sacred ecosystems in Canada. And once these chemicals are released, there is no taking them back. They move, they drift, they sink into the earth. They flow into the creeks, they enter the gardens we eat from, the wells we drink from, and the spaces where our children play. There are consequences for this. Real consequences. And once the damage is done, it cannot be reversed. So unless we speak up, unless we stand together, unless we ask the hard questions and demand real answers, nothing will ever change. Silence is how harm spreads. Silence is how policies slip through without consent. Silence is how beautiful, irreplaceable land is poisoned behind closed doors. Now is the time to rise. Now is the time to stand for this valley, these waters, these farms, these families, and these ecosystems that cannot speak for themselves. Every voice matters. Every question matters. Every refusal to stay silent matters. So get on the move. Speak out. Share this. Ask questions. Hold them accountable. Because if we don't, who will? And if not now, when? Our land deserves better. Our water deserves better. And our future deserves better. This is where we draw the line.